Death is not the end. Hi, I'm Reverend Andrew Bozeman, and this is On the Wings of Your Mind. Today is Tuesday, February 23rd, 2021, and our subject for the day is the probability that death is not the end. Now, over history, we have moved from a belief among our original ancestors that when a member of the tribe died, they stayed in contact and were always around to help us during stressful times, to help guide us through those stressful times of life that the tribe had to go through. And there were certain people within the tribe who had the gifts to be able to communicate with those who had passed on. Then we discovered science, and we became more rational, and our views about life after death changed dramatically. After that, the sticking around after death was scorned and ridiculed. That was considered superstition, and anybody who claimed to communicate with the spirits was either crazy or a witch, and we all know how some of those ended up. Now, a few hundred years later, we're in the middle of another change. There are literally millions of stories of near-death experiences. There are many thousands of mediums who have the ability to communicate with the so-called dead. And there are now hundreds, literally hundreds of books written about the scientific examination of the possibility that there might actually be life after death. Imagine that. Life after death, scientifically proven. So let's talk about it. Please click on the thumbs up button, and if you haven't already done so, please choose to subscribe. The thumbs up button, of course, below the video. Remember, I would love to see your comments, thoughts, and questions. So if you are viewing this live on Tuesday, February 23rd, 2001 at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, please use the chat box on the right side of the screen. Otherwise, if you're viewing this at any other time, then that means you're in replay mode. So please use the comment section below this video. Okay. So the question is, what happens after we die? There are those who say that nothing happens. They say that we simply no longer exist. We're here 1 minute and boom, totally gone the next. Not much to look forward to. My experience on that subject has been quite different. Excuse me. My. Excuse me. So my experience on the subject has been quite different. But in the interest of full disclosure, I need to let you know that my original training as a minister was in 6 years at the Amron Mystery School in San Francisco. And at the Amron Mystery School, we held seances every month. And so we learned how to communicate with the spirits of those who were supposed to be dead. I can even recall a friend of mine coming to me in my home within hours after his sudden death to talk. Today, I'm a member of a spiritualist church in the Buffalo, New York area. We spiritualists believe that there is life after death. And we also believe that you can communicate with those who have died. Now, we have a statement of principles from the National Association of Spiritualist Churches. And this statement of principles lays out our beliefs. Principle number 4 states, we affirm that the existence and personal identity of the individual continues after the change called death. This is followed by principle number 5, which states, we affirm that communication with the so-called dead is a fact, scientifically proven by the phenomena of spiritualism. So is life after death really a thing? Is it really, really real? Well, in order for that to be true, the consciousness would have to survive after the death of the brain, which would mean that the brain does not create consciousness. The brain does not create your consciousness. And as I've discussed on previous programs here, there is a school of theoretical physics that now holds the position that the basic state of everything, absolutely everything, is consciousness. That everything that exists, absolutely everything, comes out of consciousness. So in that paradigm, consciousness exists outside of the body. And I continually repeat to you that you are an individualized expression of infinite intelligence. You are an individualized expression of infinite intelligence. And in that context, you cannot disappear after your body dies, because infinite intelligence never ends. Never ends. We now live in a world where millions of people have had out-of-body and near-death experiences. Not hundreds of people, not thousands of people, millions of people. Literally millions of people have had these experiences. Now, Dr. Gary E. Schwartz is the director of the Laboratory for Advances in Consciousness and Health, and that's located at the University of Arizona. Well, Dr. Schwartz was so intrigued by the idea of life after death that he conducted a number of experiments on the subject. He would bring mediums into the laboratory into the laboratory setting, and he would have them do readings for people they never met of their dead relatives or from their dead relatives or friends. These are people they never met, and they also never saw those people because they were in different rooms. So they couldn't go by visible cues as to whether or not they were right. It was totally isolated, totally controlled. The medium in one room and the person being read in the other room. And the success rates were phenomenal. They were 80% and above. Now there's currently a documentary on Netflix on this issue as well, titled Surviving Death. Now this documentary takes an in-depth look at the issue of life after death from both a scientific and an anecdotal perspective. Interestingly enough, the president of our church board of trustees is currently conducting a discussion group that involves watching an episode of that documentary and then discussing it. Surviving Death. Very interesting. So basically, as I look at it, and I look around the world, there's an energetic search for the answers about what happens on the other side of that barrier, that curtain called death. What goes on over there? I think it's rather exciting because the answers they're coming up with so far are quite encouraging, at least for me. I admit that the answers so far can be pretty unsettling for some people, while they can be pretty comforting to others, depending on the perspective. But bottom line is, the answer seems to be yes. There is life after death. Of course, those who demand irrefutable, unshakable, concrete evidence are still safe in their bunkers of disbelief, because we're not there yet. But there are cracks appearing in the walls, those thick walls of disbelief. And I predict that it won't be long before they crumble. The truth will win out. But we won't concern ourselves with their resistance at the moment. There is no need for us to convince them. That's a job for infinite intelligence. The questions on my mind right now are, what does this mean for us as people facing our own mortality? And what does this mean for those who are facing death and scared out of their wits? Yeah, scared out of their wits. It means that we need not be afraid that we are going to fall into some deep abyss of darkness where we be swallowed up and cease to exist. It's not going to happen. From the stories told by those who have experienced near-death experiences, many of them have encountered people they loved who were waiting for them on the other side. Many have encountered beings of light who were filled with love and greeted them warmly. I can remember being on the death watch with one of the members of my congregation when I had a church in California. He was terrified of dying, and he fought desperately to hang on to life, desperately, by his fingernails. So a couple of the ministers, along with me from my church, we did a hands-on healing work on him for hours, literally hours, as we tried to heal his fears and relax his muscles that were rigid from terror that he was going to die. Finally, after hours of work, we were able to get him to relax. And once he relaxed, within 30 minutes after that, he was gone. He released and he left his body. Now, one of the people who was working with me during those hours prior to his death is a medium. So she went into trance to try and contact him on the other side to make sure he was okay. When she finally reached him, he was enjoying time with some of his old army buddies, and he said, "I should have done this a long time ago." Oh man, that really amused me because he had fought so hard not to cross that line. Don't send me over there. And when he finally got over there, he saw there was nothing to be afraid of. So one of the things to be aware of when we're discussing this subject is that none of the people who had near-death experiences still fear death. They all are cool with death now. They have, in essence, had a preview of what's coming, and they've seen enough to ease their minds. They are now assured that not only is death not the end, but there's more to come, and after the change called death, the field is wide open. There's now a sense of calm and peace as they face the events of their everyday lives. They've really calmed down. They've grown wise. For some, this realization that death is not the end brings up another question. Are reincarnation and past lives also real? Good question. Let's talk about it tomorrow. In the meantime, let's close with prayer. Thank you, Infinite Intelligence, for bringing all of us together in this life so that we may become spiritual warriors and join in the work we have come here to do. Thank you, Infinite Intelligence, for bringing us into this space of awareness and a deeper understanding of ourselves and our relationship to life and infinite intelligence. Thank you for showing us who we really are. We open our minds and hearts to the truth of our being. We are the children of God. We are individualized expressions of infinite intelligence. And because we are part of the greater whole, we are beginning to understand our value to the continuity of life on this planet. As we become channels of your power, infinite intelligence, we can feel your presence within ourselves and within our lives more and more. We know that as we feel your presence within our lives every day, we will rise because we are no longer cut off from you by being immersed in the darkness of fear, anger, and the pain of unforgiveness. So we are now restoring our connection through the grace of forgiveness, knowing that as we learn to forgive ourselves for the pain we have caused to ourselves, and as we learn to forgive those who have inflicted pain upon us, our lives will grow stronger, will grow happier and healthier and more prosperous. And for this, we are truly grateful. As above, so below. As within, so without. And so it is. Amen. So, thank you. Thank you for watching. Please remember to click on the thumbs up button below. And if you haven't already done so, please choose to subscribe. Remember, I would love to see your thoughts, comments, questions, so you can put those in the comment section below. And we'll get on with it again tomorrow as we discuss reincarnation and past lives. But in the meantime, please remember my name is Reverend Andrew Bozeman, and this has been On the Wings of Your Mind.